Who are you?
Whoever you want me to be.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
It's feeling epic.
3 words. 8 letters.
I remember everything.
Hello, and welcome back to Previously on Teen TV. I'm Jillian Benani, back with another very special episode, talking Season 2, Episode 4 of School Spirits. Wow, you guys. Simon ends this episode saying, "What the fuck?" And that's exactly how I feel about this episode. So much happened. There is so much to talk about. I gotta say, I was a little worried going into this episode because I love the first 3 episodes, and I just felt like the next episode might be a little slower, maybe not up to par as those first 3. I was a little worried. And wow, this episode hit home. It might be one of my favorite episodes of the season so far. So much happened, so much drama. A lot's been uncovered, I feel like. And this show is just moving. Oh my God, we are moving at a quick pace. I mean, I think back to season 1 of just how every episode we kind of focus on a different character of who might have killed Maddie. And I'm like, God, that feels so slow now because we are really moving through season 2. I gotta tell you guys, I woke up this morning, I saw there was a little bit of snow outside in New York City, and I thought, it's a work from home day now because I want to watch School Spirits. So I used the snow as an excuse. It's a snow day. I watched the app bright and early, and I am ready to talk about it. Let's get into it. First off, I'm obsessed that the title for this episode is called A Walk-In to Remember. I mean, all my A Walk to Remember girlies out there, what a great title. I love that all the episode titles do have to do with movies, which is a lot of fun. And it's usually a teen movie, I believe. So they get really creative with the titles. It really just made me want to watch A Walk to Remember again. And it was a walk-in to remember. So we start off this episode with Janet as Maddie. She is fully in the house. She's made her way in. Sandra is apologizing and taking care of her. I'm like, Sandra, what are you doing? You know that's not your daughter. She asked for a bath. Like, that is such a red flag, I feel like. No one is taking a bath to actually clean themselves these days. We're in the bath to read, to enjoy a glass of wine. Like, get away. Ugh, Sandra. It was really funny, though, seeing Peyton List do such a good job of acting like Janet and being such a fish out of water. You can really tell in those scenes that she is a different character. Like, she is not Maddie. She is Janet in Maddie's body, and you can fully tell. It reminds me a little bit of the Vampire Diaries, how Nina Dobrev, played Catherine and played Elena Gilbert. And the minute on screen, you could tell who was who. And I feel that way of how Peyton List is playing Maddie and then playing Janet in Maddie's body. And just the little things that she does of like asking for the bath and saying, "Good morning, mama." Like, just so good. You can tell, like, this girl is not from this time period. She is staring at that phone like, I have no idea what to do with that. I feel like that's just a fun new element with the show because we had Janet on the run for so long. She wasn't interacting with anybody, really. So now we have her fully interacting with Sandra, and it's a little bit of a mess because she has no idea what's going on. Did she not see people in the school using their phones? I mean, I guess Mr. Martin kept her locked away for most of the part, so she probably didn't learn much. That would have been useful now. She should have been doing her research to get out of there. So we also see early on that Janet, as Maddie, is bleeding from her head. So we see this in the bath. We see a towel pulled away. We see the blood. And where is this from? We know she hit her head in the boiler room, but wasn't that at this point at least a month ago? But I don't think they've ever showed her again really hitting her head. So I'm confused on where this blood is from, what happened. and a little bit on the timeline here, because I feel like the only thing this could be from is from the original boiler room incident. But I don't know if that was too long ago. It just feels like we need to remember that Janet is injured in Maddie's body. We need to remember that the bleeding is there. I feel like this is something that's going to keep coming back up. Is Janet just going to let Maddie's body slowly die? So then she at least won't die in the school, maybe? Maybe that's like what she's really trying to avoid here? I don't know. I'm so curious what's going on. I wasn't expecting a head injury. We hadn't seen this yet. This is new information. So I'm curious to see where that's going to go. Oh, and also, you guys, if you have theories, any ideas, email me your thoughts, conspiracies, notes, whatever. You can email me at previouslyonteentv@gmail.com. Let's chat about the show. I really want to hear what you guys think about this, because there's a lot up in the air still with this season. Well, one thing that is no longer up in the air is that we know for sure that the artifacts, the objects that the ghosts had with them when they died, they act as a key to their personal hell. And their personal hell is what happened to them when they died. So we saw Rhonda's personal hellscape in the last episode, which was so scary. And then we see a few more this episode, which also very jarring. Like, I thought Rhonda's would be the worst because her death was just so upsetting and scary. But let me tell you, these other ones just as scary. We see Wally's first, and this was just hard to watch. We see his mom screaming at him. He's a disappointment. We see his coach yelling. There was a lot there for Wally to handle. I just wanted to go in there and save him. The monologue that he gives later on in the episode is so good too, of everything about how he's feeling in the scar. They call it the scar, hellscape, whatever. He was saying that you actually have to feel it now. When you died, you don't really feel anything. But when you follow that red light into this hellscape, you are feeling everything. You're feeling your mom yelling at you. You're a disappointment. You're feeling the pressure from the fans to get the play. You're feeling pressure from the coach. He's feeling more of the injury, and he had never felt any of that before. So we see Wally go in there twice, and he shook up. We really have not seen this much emotion yet from Wally, I feel like. So it was nice to see that. I mean, I didn't like seeing his death, and that was jarring and everything, but I feel like he's really growing as a ghost, if you will. Like, he's somebody who really wants to find answers. He's so burned by Mr. Martin. He feels betrayed, and he is the leader in trying to find these answers right now, which I like that he's rising to the occasion. Good for him. Not just an athlete, people. He's got some brains too. He's a good leader. He's good to have on the team. And then we also see Charlie's hellscape, which at first you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. He's just staring at peanuts. Like, it's okay. And then he starts choking, going into anaphylactic shock. And Charlie sees Mr. Martin in his hellscape, in his scar. So this reveals that Mr. Martin can get in and out of scars without their keys. But they find out that they cannot use each other's keys to get into each other's hellscape. So they can only get into their own. So Mr. Martin is somehow a bigger ghost. I don't know what the word is, like an ultra ghost, an ultimate ghost. We need like a word for this or something, a superior ghost. We got to think on some things here. But he clearly knows more information, or he just is clearly more powerful than these other ghosts. And I wonder what else we're going to find out throughout the season. What else can he do? I need a sit down with Mr. Martin already. You know, I kind of missed him in this episode a little bit just because I want some answers. So that's a lot of what's happening in Ghost World. Okay, now let's go into the human world with our human gang. So we find out that the school is doing a come together day, which includes a digital detox as a way for them to come together and get over tragedy. The school has really been through it lately with Maddie's disappearance. There's just a lot going on. I thought this come together day was actually really funny because it's so something that schools will do of just like, okay, let's throw away your phones for the day. We can fix everything. Let's all, come together and solve this. My one note is I kind of wish that they would have done something like Mean Girls does, just to kind of, reference another teen phenomenon. I would have liked that, where all the girls are in the cafeteria. Like, give me who has been victimized here by Claire? Something like that. That would have been fun. But I love the idea of the come together day because we all have them at the school at one time. We are no longer running. Okay, we've been running for the past couple episodes. They are going all over the place. They're going to Janet's farmhouse. They're going to that university. They have been on the run, the group of humans, taking care of all the ghost problems outside the school. So it was kind of nice that we had to have them all in one place for this episode. And they have them do all these team building activities. We find out that Claire is really going through it right now. I'm so curious about this stuff with her family. Because why are they ignoring her? I kind of feel like there's something bigger going on here, or will this lead to something more? Or maybe they're just doing it to break down her spirit a little bit more. But why is her family so mad at her? I guess it's just like they're terrible people. There is not a good parent in this show. Sandra's coming around. At least we can admit that. Sandra is better than she was last season, which is good. But so we also find out on this come together day, Claire's former bestie, cheerleader gal pal, Chloe, is very upset with her because Claire is ignoring Chloe for her new ghost hunter friends. I feel like they kind of are ghost hunters. I feel like we need a fun name for them. What I do love about the ghost hunter human group is that they are from different walks of life in the school. So it's fun having Claire in the group this season because she really wasn't in the group as much last season. Everyone was a lot more separate. So it's fun seeing her budding friendship with Nicole. They're really coming together. They're finding out that they have a lot in common. And Claire's finding out she doesn't have as much in common with Chloe as maybe she thought. A lot can change in a couple weeks when you find out ghosts are real and your former best friend's body is possessed by a ghost that died at that school 50 years ago. That changes you as a teenager, I would assume. Changes anybody, really. So Claire, we just really see is going through it. And then while everyone's in the school too, we see Mr. Anderson enter the school. And when he enters the school, I think, okay, something is going to happen. Because I feel like they purposely did this event, this day where they wanted people's emotions to be lower, for people to break their spirit a little bit. I thought it was a really great device to use for the show, but we see Mr. Anderson and he's really going through it. He just looks down in the dumps. He is not the same person he was before. It looks like he's at an all-time low. And I gotta say, I totally forgot that he was not at the school before this episode. We'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about the ending. But when Mr. Anderson entered the school, I thought, oh, things are going to happen. We're all pretty much in the same place except Janet, because Janet is getting interrogated by Xavier's dad, the sheriff. Again, we're keeping things moving. Sandra ran into the sheriff and was like, by the way, my daughter is home. Just want to casually mention it at the grocery store. I know that you and your team have been searching for her for months, used resources, everything. She's just home, quietly came home, no big deal. And then we get this somewhat of an interrogation scene with the sheriff and Janet/Maddie. And did you guys notice he keeps saying things like, did somebody hurt you at the school? Who hurt you? What happened? And I really thought that Janet was going to break and talk about Mr. Martin somehow. Yes, the teacher hurt me, something like that, because that all could be true. So I thought that she was going to kind of use that as a way of not fully lying, but lying. So I don't know. I feel like we're not going to see the end of these interrogations, and Janet is going to have to say something at one point. But we're really seeing Sandra trying to be there and support her daughter in any way that she can. And Maddie/Janet is just being quiet as can be. So we see Sandra kick the sheriff out. And I feel like this is a big turning point kind of for Janet/Maddie, where Janet is just so excited that a parent is actually sticking up for her, because in the flashbacks, we see her dad is never doing that for her. He's never sticking up for her. He's never taking her side. He's abusive to her. So I think that Janet is just so excited that she, now has this parental figure who is there for her, because who has she had over the last 60 years? She's had Mr. Martin, who it also seems like has, abused his power against her or something. We don't fully know to what extent yet, but you can see that Janet start to feel a little bit more at home then. And it will be interesting to see what happens with her and Sandra, especially in the next couple episodes. You can just see that Janet is loving that she's being taken care of and being loved, and that, parental instinct is there for once with her, which is also sad to see because Maddie didn't really seem to get that with her mom, especially in the later years. So it's so sad to see that Sandra is being this like loving mother who's sticking up for her daughter, and it's not Maddie who's getting it. It's Janet. So it will just be interesting to see where it goes with those two. And then back at the school, we have people start to get emotional. All right. The come together day is working. People are starting to let their guards down. And I'm like, no, ghosts are out there. They're going to grab your bodies. Mr. Martin is out there. I'm just screaming at people not to let their guards down, but it's happening all over. Everyone's getting emotional. People are starting to get at an all-time low. We have Claire really start to open up about her family and how she feels, and about Maddie and how sorry she is. And then we see her fully believe that Maddie is a ghost from what Simon tells her. And then we get a strange humming sound. And all the ghosts know right away, okay, somebody has died. That's what happens when somebody dies. And I'm like, again, how are so many people dying at this school? I know I ask this every episode, but it's like right away they knew that that was the sound. And it's like, do you hear that every year? So all the ghosts know someone has died, but there's no body. So they know right away that Mr. Martin is in somebody's body. And we don't know who. I think that there's 3 suspects for this. So I think Mr. Anderson is an obvious choice, which, by the way, I talked about last episode. I thought Mr. Martin was already in somebody's body, but I'm glad that we're actually more seeing it. So Mr. Anderson, I think, is the most obvious choice because it's a teacher going into another teacher's body. And Mr. Anderson was clearly at an all-time low. He feels like his life is over. He lost his job. He could be facing criminal charges. I mean, he stole money from the school. I feel like his reputation has gone down a lot. And we also do not see him leave the campus at all. We see the principal say something like, you can stay as long as you want. So definitely a suspect. I think that Mr. Anderson is probably my number 1 suspect. But also, could it be Claire? We see her lose her spirit. And I do think Claire has good access to Maddie/Janet. As in the human group of Maddie's friends, it feels like maybe Mr. Martin would go into her body. So then he has better access to Janet. So I do think Claire could be a good option. But I also feel like Maddie was close to Claire when Claire was at her lowest and when the humming started. So wouldn't Maddie have seen Mr. Martin go into Claire's body? So that's why I'm not sure if it's Claire. But I do think Claire would have given good access to Janet. So maybe Mr. Martin should have thought that one through. And then I think another suspect that we have is Claire's friend Chloe. She's seen leaving the school saying, I got a lot out of it. Interesting quote to leave the come together day. Like, come together, go into somebody's body, soul and body come together. Get it? And to say I got a lot out of it, maybe that's Mr. Martin actually saying that. But I do think that was just a line in there to throw us off, honestly. I feel like they're really trying to throw us off at the end. They show a close-up of the principal. I don't think it's the principal. I think that they're doing what they did last season where they're throwing a lot of suspects at us, and then next episode or maybe the next couple episodes, we're going to start eliminating suspects and then land on whose body Mr. Martin is in. I'm still going with Mr. Anderson. I truly think that it makes the most sense. I also think that Mr. Martin would want to go into a teacher's body so he could keep that power. Like being an adult figure, a teacher, you just have a little bit more of authority than what these kids have. We also have Maddie in the episode saying how important Mr. Anderson was to her. And then Wally compares Mr. Anderson to Mr. Martin. So I just think that was a huge clue. Like that was a big conversation that they were having. And Maddie felt bad for everything that happened with Mr. Anderson. So I do think that when it comes out that Maddie is alive, because Nicole announced it to the principal, word is getting out there now. So I feel like Mr. Anderson / Mr. Martin will now have easy access to Janet / Maddie to like go visit her, be that authority figure in her life. And then once again, we have the parallel of the teacher and the student because it is just Mr. Martin and Janet again. And I feel like then with those two together, we're going to get more flashbacks because there are still so many questions up in the air right now. Like we found out some good stuff this episode. We're moving forward in a really good direction, but I need to know more about Mr. Martin and Janet and what exactly happened when they died. We are still really looking into the keys and the hellscapes, and I need to get to Mr. Martin and Janet's hellscape. We need to see it. I feel like there's so many questions. There's so much up in the air with that, and I feel like it's really going to connect to a lot of this story. I did kind of miss the flashbacks a little bit this episode. They're so fun. So maybe in the next one or something like that. But I'm just loving where this season is going. Some other just like bright spots of the episode. I mean, Charlie and Yuri, you guys, how cute are they? That scene at the pottery wheel where Yuri was, can I say stroking that pottery? That was quite funny. I really want something to happen between those two just to add a little bit more, comedy to this season. I feel like this episode was pretty dark. So to have those little bit of light moments is fun. I'm kind of digging Nicole and Xavier, you guys. I feel like them as a team work really well together. So I hope that we get more of just the two of them in scenes together, trying to solve the mystery, and then maybe something will happen. I feel like they're really putting Maddie and Wally on the back burner. I feel like I was so into them last season, and now I'm kind of like drifting off of it. I'm still a fan of them. We just don't have many scenes of them together. And I'm wondering if the show is trying to push us in a direction of like Maddie's going to live and Wally will not, so don't get too invested in this. I don't know. That's what I'm a little bit worried about. But like, I just kind of want a fun scene with them again. Everything is so stressful for the two of them. They're really going through it, both of them. So can we get a school dance or something like that? A little bit more of a happier school thing. Maybe after this like dreadful come together day all the students had to do. Maybe they'll throw a carnival or something. That would be fun. I need a Ferris wheel moment. Okay. I need that in every teen show. It's a necessity. So let's get that in the next step. Just give me something a little more fun, And then we got to talk about the ending shot too. So the gang sees Janet as Maddie, and she's fully cosplaying as Maddie now. She's in Maddie's t-shirt. Earlier in the episode, we see her in like a flowery dress that I feel like Maddie wouldn't even wear. It was just something in her closet. And it's very reminiscent of more what Janet would wear. But then at the end of the episode, she is going full Maddie. She's in her Carrie t-shirt. She's really trying to play the part. She doesn't want people asking questions, and she really wants to keep selling it to Sandra. You can tell that that is her goal. She just wants to get away with this for as long as she can. And boy, is it eerie when she closes those curtains. Oof. Yikes. She is shutting out the rest of the world, and she's just trying to have it be her and Sandra. And girly, Janet, you're not going to get away with it for long, because the gang, the Scooby Gang, what can we call them? I know I keep calling them the Human Gang, but I'll come up with a fun name for them. They are right outside staring in. That's where that great moment of Simon saying, "What the fuck?" It's such a good moment. And then the episode ends. And I really needed some previews for next week. Give me a promo or something. If you're going to do this weekly, give us a promo. I need something to look forward to. I can't wait a whole week. This is so good. I mean, a week just seems like such a long time, you guys. Ugh, what are we going to do? I hope we find out what body Mr. Martin is in next week. Next week, I want some more of the new kids. Quinn was not even in this episode. Show me a little bit more of Yuri. I feel like in the last episode, I was saying that there must be something more to them. And now I'm not so sure. I'm wondering if that was just kind of to throw us off. It feels like they're maybe there to just kind of add a little bit more like humor to the situation as everyone else is living through their hellscapes. Maybe Yuri and Quinn are just there as a little bit of comedic relief and a distraction for us. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I can't wait for next week. And send me all your thoughts, you guys. Email me at previouslyonteentv@gmail.com. You can also follow me on social, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads at previously_on_teentv. Thanks for listening.